The senior BJP leader from Haryana, Captain Abhimanyu, spoke to me a little while earlier today for the first time, telling us the frightening story of how his family escaped from short death during the height of the Jat riots. The violence that we saw in Haryana a few months back, what was known as the Jat agitation, involved some of the most horrific violence that we've seen in any protest in any part of the country. So many families were affected. Dozens of people lost their lives. Business worth thousands of crores was affected. There were those who had extremely close calls. One of them, a cabinet minister in the Haryana government, a senior BJP leader, Captain Abhimanyu. He was not in Rohtak, where his family was, but he was tracking the movements of his family. And their escape from a mob of more than 1,000 people is one of the great escapes that we've heard about. He joins us now with his family, his young son, his niece, his nephew, to tell us a little bit of those hours when he thought it was all over. They don't want to talk to us, but I think the point that they want to make and the family wants to make is that they have suffered incredibly over the last couple of months. And what they have witnessed is something that no child should ever witness. Captain, thank you so much for speaking to us. And kids, you can run off if you want now.
Thank you, Vishnu.
What I wanted to know is, there must have been moments on that day when you thought you had lost your family. It's a joint family, it's a big family, you all live together. You would have thought it's all over.
As far as family is concerned, Vishnu, yes, on that particular afternoon, it was a very difficult time for me when I was helpless in Chandigarh. And I couldn't do anything for them. They were locked in the house. The house was put to fire. There were neighbors who were calling me up, asking for help or to send police or fire brigade. And the help wasn't just reaching. And the neighbors were taking all the risks and trying to save the family. Family was putting up a very brave front, at least.
How many people were around in that area?
Inside
the mob?
The mob could have been approximately 1,000 of them.
So there were 1,000 people who had surrounded your home?
Approximately 1,000 plus.
And these were people baying for your blood. The family would have known it instantly that their lives were on the line.
The family did feel so. And since the house was burnt, and they had to just save themselves at that particular time.
How did they escape?
It was the neighbors who helped them out. And neighbors could break the door, which was very difficult otherwise. And at that particular spur of the moment, I can only say that probably the God or a miracle saved them. Another 2 minutes, the gallery that they were hiding themselves in was also engulfed in the fire just 2 minutes later. So it's entirely God's doing, and the neighbors' great endeavor.
What did the children see when they were inside the house? They would have known something is wrong, but did they witness these violent mobs carrying torches with them to set your house afire? What did they see?
They saw people breaking the house. They saw people breaking things in the house. They saw people entering in the house. They saw people looting the house, and they saw people surrounding their house, because each of the room of my house is exposed to some lawn or otherwise. And they could see everything that was happening outside. They could hear a lot of noise and sounds. And then finally they saw the fire reaching out to them through the ventilators of the gallery that they were hiding in. And that's the moment when they could run out once the neighbors informed them that the gate is broken and you can now run out. And the neighbors, they created some sort of human wall to save them from the attackers.
There was also another very lucky situation when there was a car of yours,
yes,
in which these protesters had put in a gas cylinder, and the gas cylinder burst, and that diverted their attention.
It did, because that particular moment, again, as I said, this is God's hand. It was an absolute miracle that when these people they could have rushed in to block the family's way of getting out, that there is a car lying in the porch, which they had just burnt, put in a cylinder, which exploded, and that big fire, it pushed them back away from the family for that particular moment. So everything just went right for the family to be saved. So that's the miracle that happened.
And the family moved to different locations of Rohtak. They were not together.
No, they were not together for a few hours. And the neighbors took them on the scooties, the motorcycles here and there, and then the neighbors collected them after a while and then kept moving them till late night, because the help wasn't just reaching. and they were about to just left to fend for themselves, and they could only gather up next morning when they had to be evacuated.
How have the children, how has your family, your wife, how have they been affected?
I would say they've been quite brave in the last couple of months. They've lost everything that belonged to them, which they could call of their own, everything before 19th of Feb, and they had to start their life afresh. They ran out of the house barefoot, and be it clothes, be it books, be it uniforms, or toys, or for the ladies, because the ladies, 4 of them, we are 6 brothers, joint family. So the 4 ladies, 4 wives of us brothers, including my wife, they've lost everything, every piece of jewelry, every piece of belonging, every photo, everything that they must have collected or brought from their homes for families.
You have a very old family in Haryana, and there's family history dating back several hundred years, and it's all gone now.
Yes.
It's a part of your life, your soul, which is just, it's burnt, it's gone.
At least 300 years old things I remember having in my family as a family treasure. It could be small little things of belonging to our ancestors, could be some coins, could be some stick used by one of our ancestors, could be the old pagadis, could be letters of Lala Lajpat Rai letters to my great grandfather were there. My grandfather's degree of 1901, his younger brother's degree of 1908, and all our own degrees and everything, that their pictures and the books which my grandfather started collecting from the days of Lahore when he was working for Arya Samaj. So more than 20,000 books, all belonging to the Vedic texts and scriptures.
20,000 books burned down.
More than 20,000 books.
More than 20,000 books.
Yes. My father had his library of his own.
Now, some of the family are consulting psychologists as well. Is that right? Is that helping to cope with what they've seen?
We've recently shifted our children to Delhi and got them admitted in Delhi school, and they are adjusting to the new environment of Delhi, and we're also talking to the doctors' friends so that at least they must not have any long-term impact on their psyche because of this trauma that they had to go through.
Would you ever feel safe to go back to Rohtak?
I'm absolutely fine. Vishnu, Rohtak is my home. I'm born there. I've grown up there. My family has lived there for 100 years, and I love that city, and I love the people of this city, love the people of that region. This particular attack wasn't by the people of Rohtak. It was a politically planned, inspired, and conspiracy which has led to this kind of attack at my family.
They wanted to kill you?
I don't know what was the motive, but the circumstances led to the threat of life to my family. I don't know whether it really it was just the mob frenzy, but there were people who were acting as some sort of nodes, some key persons who were guiding the mob and who were leading things, which are video footages are available, and the people belonging to a special group or a class which belong to a particular political party, and all those people are identified in video or photo or otherwise other technical evidences are there.
I know you don't want to make it political, but you have accused the Congress party of being directly involved in this conspiracy, right? That's what you believe. It was a Congress conspiracy to target you, and to not just you, to start this entire agitation is your argument. Of course, they deny it completely, but you maintain that.
If you apply a simple, basic common sense and just be rational and objective and try to understand the whole map of Haryana and where all this agitation took place. This agitation had been taking place for more than 20 years. It had a history. It has certain organizations which had been running been raising this demand for more than 20 years. But this time around, there were dharnas and sit-ins at 449 places. But the violence, arson, looting, it all happened at just about 10 places. And all these 10 places, I must name them: Jhajjar, Beri, Kalanor, Mahem, Rohtak, which is surrounded by Kiloi constituency represented by former Chief Minister of Haryana, Mr. Bhupender Singh Hooda, then Gohana, Kharkhoda, Rai and Gannor. Now, all these 10 places are represented by the the members of Legislative Assembly or belonging to Congress Party and also a faction of Congress Party. Now, these places, incidentally, very important coincidence is that they had never participated in the Jat agitation in last 2 decades.
And all of a sudden this time they have.
For the first time, no recognized political the Jat agitation body as such. They all cropped up in just 2 days, and there was no, they were apparently leaderless on the ground.
You know, on the ground, let me ask you this, because I've also covered those protests, and it was extremely dangerous. I have never seen more violent crowds in this sort of thing in 20 years of being out in the field. A lot of the protesters coming in over there were coming in fancy SUVs. They were well dressed, they were articulate, they were educated people, and they were not poor. So the argument that poor people looking for certain rights were out protesting, in many cases, not all, in many cases, is not true, or didn't seem to be true.
As I told you, this particular violence that has happened under the garb and under the cover of this Jat agitation movement is actually not part of the Jat agitation movement, because Jat agitation movement in last 2 decades had never turned violent, at least of this scale. And these new areas which joined in the movement, apparently, but they did not have the real motive to support the movement.
Right.
The motive was to destabilize the government. Motive was to create an environment in the state wherein whatever good things that we have been doing in last year and a half, that this kind of progress doesn't happen. Or it could be that Haryana surrounds Delhi from 3 sides, and all the 3 districts that I have mentioned also surrounds Haryana at least from 2 sides, that Delhi also feels the heat of this kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I have reasons to convince myself that this wasn't a one-off incident, it was a well-planned political conspiracy, not only to destabilize the state, but also somehow to affect the national capital as well.
One last question to you. You are going to rebuild your house. I believe what pujas are starting, is that right? You're starting, there will be a religious ceremony, day after tomorrow?
By the grace of God, just 7 days later, we had started our daily ritual of doing Havan Yajna at our home, even if it is burned. My brother, my brother's wife, they had already started doing Havan in the lawns of because our family has been doing daily Yajna Havan for almost 100 years now.
And you won't stop that tradition?
No, and that didn't stop, and we're going to start again the rebuilding of the house from 24th, and with the support of all the social groups, with the support of all the everyone who represents any section of society in Haryana, and they're all coming in. They came in the last 2 months. They all met me, be it the Jat reservation movement people or be it various Khap Panchayat people. They all came in and they said that this house belonged to all of us, and we will rebuild it. We will clean it up. Even till today, the ashes have not been removed, and said that we will help in rebuilding it up.
Well, let's hope, Captain Abhimanyu, that your dream of having that home restored is realized very soon.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming out and speaking to us and telling us about what your family has gone through. It must still be a very traumatic experience for them. And let's hope that you as a family can come out of this successfully. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Vishnu. I'm sure we will come out of it, and we'll come out of it stronger.